When Dr. Vesper Wilde, a renowned Krell geneticist, analyzes a human prisoner's DNA for routine documentation, she discovers something that violates every known law of biological evolution. Sequences that shouldn't exist, genetic markers from dozens of incompatible species, and code that appears deliberately engineered by an intelligence far beyond current galactic understanding. The human, a seemingly ordinary mercenary named Kai Storm, responds to her horror with a knowing smile and a dangerous suggestion: keep it quiet. What begins as a routine prisoner examination spirals into a terrifying conspiracy that forces Vesper to question everything she knows about human history, the origins of her own species, and why the Galactic Council has been so desperate to keep humanity contained on their tiny blue planet. As she digs deeper into Kai's impossible genetics, Vesper realizes that humanity isn't just another primitive species waiting to join the galactic community. There's something far more ancient, far more dangerous, and the secret they carry in their very cells could shatter the established order of the entire galaxy. The containment lab smelled like ozone and fear, which honestly described most of my workdays at the Krell Central Medical Facility. I'd analyzed genetic samples from over 300 species during my career. Everything from the silicon-based Thronex to the quantum-phased Viridians. Nothing surprised me anymore. Until today. Subject is human, male, approximately 30 standard cycles old. I dictated to my recorder, adjusting the plasma scanner over the restrained prisoner. Captured during the skirmish near the Andromeda outpost. Name listed as Kai Storm. The human opened one eye and grinned at me. Actually grinned. Most species either trembled or tried to appear dignified when strapped to my examination table. This one looked like he was waiting for a shuttle. That's me, Doc. Though I prefer independent contractor to prisoner, if we're being accurate. I ignored him and drew a blood sample. Standard procedure. Run the genetics. File the report. Send the human to the detention level. Simple. Clean. Done by lunch. The plasma scanner hummed as it processed the sample. I watched the holographic display materialize above my desk, expecting the typical human genetic markers I'd seen in the medical databases. 23 chromosome pairs, predictable gene expression, evolutionary lineage tracing back to Earth's primordial soup. The display flickered. Then it went absolutely insane. What in the seven hells? I whispered, my crest flattening against my skull in instinctive alarm. The genetic sequence spiraling before me was wrong. Not mutated wrong. Not contaminated wrong. Impossible wrong. I was looking at active genetic material from species that had gone extinct before my civilization discovered fire. Prithian neural architecture, woven seamlessly with Eldarin sensory clusters. Raxian regenerative markers sitting comfortably next to Zephrosian adaptive immunity genes, and underneath it all, threading through every chromosome like roots through soil, was something I'd only seen in theoretical xenobiology papers about the Precursors. The first ones. The species that supposedly seeded the galaxy with life before disappearing 3 billion years ago. You look worried, Doc, Kai said, conversationally. Is my cholesterol high? I keep telling myself to cut back on the fried thorax eggs, but they're just so damn good. My hands trembled as I ran the analysis again. Same results. I ran it a third time using different equipment. The genetic sequence remained consistent, mocking every law of evolutionary biology I'd spent decades studying. This is impossible, I breathed. This sequence, you shouldn't exist. Your DNA contains genetic material from at least 47 different species, some of which have been extinct for millions of years. The complexity of the integration alone would require computational power that exceeds our most advanced quantum systems. And these precursor markers. I turned to face him, my scientific curiosity warring with a growing sense of dread. What are you? Kai's grin widened. He looked completely relaxed, as if we were discussing the weather instead of his reality-breaking genetic structure. I'm just a guy trying to make a living in this crazy galaxy, he said. Then his expression shifted, becoming something sharper, more dangerous. But if you want the technical answer, I'm exactly what your scanner says I am. That's not an answer, I snapped. This is beyond hybrid genetics. This is beyond anything the Galactic Council's most advanced labs could produce. These sequences are deliberately constructed, precisely balanced. Someone engineered this. Someone with technology that shouldn't exist. Shouldn't is such a fun word, isn't it? Kai tilted his head, studying me with those disturbingly perceptive human eyes. It implies that reality should follow our expectations. That the universe owes us consistency. I pulled up the historical genetic database, comparing his markers against every known biological template. The results made my blood run cold. You have genetic sequences from the first civilization, I said slowly. The Precursors. The species that the entire Galactic Council has been searching for evidence of for centuries. You're carrying their genetic signature in your active DNA. Kai asked innocently. Don't play games with me, human. Do you understand what this means? If the Council discovers this, they'll dissect you. They'll dissect every human they can find. Earth will be quarantined, studied, possibly sterilized. Your entire species could be designated a Class Omega threat. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Kai's smile didn't fade, but something ancient flickered behind his eyes. Then don't tell them, he said quietly. I stared at him. You can't be serious. This is the greatest biological discovery in galactic history. This could answer fundamental questions about the origin of life, the nature of the precursors, the reason why our species are compatible enough to breathe the same air. This could revolutionize everything we know about. It could also start a war that would make the Great Purge look like a schoolyard disagreement. Kai interrupted. His voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath it. Think about it, Doc. Really think. What happens when the Galactic Council learns that humans are walking around with precursor DNA? When they realize that maybe, just maybe, we're not some primitive species that stumbled into space travel last Tuesday. My mind raced through the implications. The political chaos, the religious upheaval, the territorial conflicts. Half the Council species had religions based on precursor worship. The other half had built their entire cultural identity on being the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. And here was a human, from a planet barely past single-system exploration, carrying genetic proof that his species had connections to the beings that supposedly created all of us. How? I asked. How is this possible? Kai shrugged, a gesture that seemed far too casual for the magnitude of what we were discussing. Maybe we're descendants. Maybe we're experiments. Maybe we're something else entirely. Does the how really matter right now? Of course it matters. This is dangerous information that will get a lot of people killed if it leaves this room, Kai said flatly. Including you, by the way. The moment you file that report, you become a liability. The Council doesn't like loose ends. I felt my secondary heart skip a beat. He was right, and we both knew it. The Galactic Council had a documented history of making inconvenient discoveries disappear, along with the scientists who made them. You're asking me to suppress potentially the most significant scientific finding in recorded history, I said, though my conviction was already crumbling. I'm asking you to stay alive, Kai corrected. Also, I'm asking you to consider that maybe, just maybe, there's a reason humans have been kept on a tight leash. A reason the Council fast-tracked our probationary membership but restricted our expansion. A reason your military strategists have 17 different contingency plans for human containment despite us being, quote, technologically primitive. He shouldn't have known that. Those contingency plans were classified at the highest levels. How do you know about the containment protocols? Same way I know you've been flagged for observation by Council intelligence for the past 6 months, Kai said, watching my expression carefully. Same way I know your research into cross-species genetic compatibility got shut down right before you could publish findings that would have been, let's say, uncomfortable for the official narrative. My crest bristled. That research had been my life's work. 8 years of careful analysis, proving that the galactic species were too similar, too compatible to have evolved independently. The mathematical probability was essentially zero. Someone had engineered us, guided our development. The Council had buried it within 48 hours of my preliminary report. You're suggesting the Council knows, I said slowly, about humanity, about the connection to the Precursors. I'm not suggesting anything, Kai replied cheerfully. I'm just a guy who got captured during a skirmish. Remember? Though it is funny how that skirmish happened to occur at the exact research station where you were temporarily reassigned. Coincidences are wild. My mind felt like it was fragmenting. You got captured on purpose. You wanted me to analyze your genetics. Did I? That sounds complicated. I'm just a simple mercenary. Nothing about you is simple. I pulled up my personal files, the ones I'd kept hidden in encrypted storage. Research notes. Observations about genetic anomalies I'd noticed across multiple species, patterns that suggested deliberate engineering. Everything pointed to a truth the Council had been suppressing. We were all someone's creation, someone's experiment, and humanity was somehow central to it. Why reveal this to me? I asked. What do you gain? Kay's expression softened slightly. Because you're smart, Doc. Smart enough to figure this out eventually. And when you did, the Council would have made you disappear. I figured I'd give you a choice instead. A choice between what and what exactly? Between filing that report and painting a target on your back, or helping me get out of here and maybe learning some truths that'll make your banned research look like children's homework. I should have refused. Should have called security. Should have done literally anything except what I did next. Instead, I erased the genetic analysis from the system. If I do this, I said quietly, if I help you, I need answers. Real answers. About humanity. About the Precursors. About why my entire career has been leading me toward questions I'm not supposed to ask. Kai sat up, and the restraints simply opened. Because of course they did. He'd probably been able to free himself the entire time. Deal, he said, extending his hand in the human gesture of agreement. Though I should warn you, the answers are going to make you question everything you thought you knew about the galaxy, about your species, about mine. I hesitated for only a moment before taking his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and somehow felt ancient despite his young appearance. There are others, like you? I asked. Oh, Doc, Kai laughed, and there was something both terrifying and exhilarating in that sound. Every human is like me. We've just gotten really good at pretending we're not. He moved toward the lab exit with casual confidence, then paused to look back at me. Coming? Or do you want to stay here and spend the rest of your career analyzing Thornek's kidney stones? I grabbed my personal data core and followed him, my entire worldview crumbling and rebuilding itself with every step. Where are we going? First, we're getting off this station before your erased files trigger an automatic security review. Then we're heading to Earth. Earth? The Council has that planet under surveillance protocols. Every ship within 50 light-years gets flagged. Kay winked, and I finally understood why the Council was so afraid of humans. It wasn't their technology or their military capability or their aggressive expansion tendencies. It was that smile, that absolute confidence, that terrifying suggestion that they'd been playing a much longer game than anyone realized. Then we'll just have to be sneaky about it, he said. Besides, you wanted answers about humanity and the Precursors, right? Yes, but... Well, here's the first answer. There's no and between those two words. Kai gestured for me to hurry as alarms began wailing in the distance. Humanity doesn't have a connection to the Precursors, Doc. We are the Precursors. We just took a really, really long nap. I stopped walking, stared at him, tried to process what he'd just said. That's impossible. The Precursors disappeared 3 billion years ago. Humans evolved on Earth. The fossil record is clear. The archaeological evidence is conclusive. Is it? Kai asked over his shoulder, already moving down the corridor. Or is it just really well staged? The security alarms grew louder. Somewhere above us, armed response teams were mobilizing. I had perhaps 30 seconds to make a choice that would define the rest of my existence. I could stay, face the consequences, live a safe, predictable life, analyzing standard genetic samples and never knowing the truth. Or I could follow the human with impossible DNA and answers that would reshape galactic history. You coming or not, Doc? Kai called, because this station's about to get very unfriendly. and I'd hate for you to miss humanity's big reveal. It's been 3 billion years in the making. Should be quite a show. I ran after him, my scientific curiosity finally outweighing my survival instincts. If you're lying about any of this, then you can dissect me yourself, Kai promised, grinning as we sprinted toward the emergency escape pods. But spoiler alert, the truth is so much weirder than anything I could make up. Behind us, the lab exploded in a carefully controlled detonation, erasing all evidence of my discoveries. Ahead of us, the escape pod bay doors were already opening, revealing a small ship that definitely shouldn't have been docked there. After you, Doc, Kai said. Welcome to the revolution. Try not to scream when you meet the others. I boarded the ship, my fate sealed, my future uncertain, and my mind racing with impossible possibilities. The Precursors hadn't disappeared. They'd been hiding, as humanity, and now apparently they were done pretending.